Welcome back to Couch to Coders. In today's video, we are going to introduce something called Schema and wrap up our data tables module. So let's just review where we are in our module. In the first video, we reviewed what is a data table. We know that a data table is made of rows and columns. In our previous video, video 2, we reviewed different types of data. We reviewed that you can have string or text data. We have number data, which is broken up into 3 subcategories of a float, decimal, int 64, whole number, or numeric, which is float. In today's lesson, we're going to introduce something called Table Schema. Let's get started. Schema Schema. So BigQuery lets you know what type of data you have through something called schema. If you've never heard of the word, I just pulled out a definition from Webster's Online Dictionary. Schema is defined as a diagrammatic presentation, or more broadly, a structured framework or plan, also an outline. So when we're thinking of schema and data, how do those tie in? Well, the schema gives you the outline of the table and it lets you know what are the columns and what kind of data is inside the columns. So here is a snip directly from BigQuery. So what schema does is it tells you which each column is, that's the field name. So in this table, we're going to have a column called vendor ID, pickup date time, drop off, passenger count, trip distance. Not only does it tell you the column names, it also tells you what type of data you have. In this type field, we see some vocab that we reviewed last time. We see a string, so we know this is going to be text data. We have timestamp. We only briefly alluded to that, but that is a subcategory of a date. We have integer or int 64, which is a whole number. And then here we have that numeric, which we're going to classify as a float or a decimal. Within the schema, we can also use this filter function here. So if you have a lot of columns and you just want to say, hey, do you have something called X? You can just type in what you think that column might be, and BigQuery will populate any columns that have those matching keywords. And then we also have something called mode. So mode tells you what types of values are allowed. At a high level, we have nullable, and we see most of them are nullable. So what that means is that we might have missing data. It doesn't mean that we for sure have missing data, but that it is possible that if someone's updating this table, BigQuery will allow a missing value. In contrast, when it's required, that means that it cannot be null. Every single row in this data table is going to have something in for vendor ID. We don't know what it is, but we know that it's not a missing value. In contrast, we might be missing a pickup time, a drop-off time, passenger count, or trip distance. This mode is really just an FYI for now. So with that, I'm going to open up BigQuery on my computer and show you through the tool a live demo. Okay, so here we are in the BigQuery interface. When you first open it up, you're going to have something with this home, and it's going to say, welcome to your SQL workspace. SQL because that is the base language of BigQuery. I already have the schema opened up. In a future lesson, I'll show you how to get there on your own. But right now, we're just looking at the schema. So here I see I have my table name, TLC Yellow Trips 2014. This is taxi data in New York City. And just like the snip, I see that I have the field name. These are the columns. I have the type. I have the mode. And there's also a few other things here. And this table is really great because it also provides a description. So we don't have to guess what the data is. Most tables, this is going to be blank, and you have to do some research to figure out if you have an ID, you're like, what is that ID? Is it a vendor ID? Hopefully the name's good. Maybe it's a passenger ID. Maybe it's a driver ID. Luckily, this tells us exactly what it is, and it also tells us the type of data inside. Within this schema, so this is just the outline of the table, I can also click on details, and this gives me more information on the data. So I see that it was created in September 14th, 2022, and that's also the last time it was modified or updated. I can see this is the table name, and then I can see the number of rows. So this one table has 275 million rows. So this is some big data that we're working with. Within this same view, I can click on Preview, and this will give me just a quick little view on a few rows of what the data looks like. So here I have vendor ID, which we know is string data. If I go back to schema, vendor ID is string. So this is a 2. So if I tried to add this to something, BigQuery is going to treat it like a string. If I tried to add this to passenger count, it's not going to let me do that. I have pick up date time. So we see we have the date, and then we also have time in here. We have passenger count, which is int 64. You can only have whole people. We don't have a fraction of a person. And then we have trip distance. In contrast to passenger count, you can have a fraction of a mile. And then we also have additional columns that are here. And this goes pretty far. All right, so let's go back to the PowerPoint and summarize everything that we've done in this module and wrap up this lesson. So quick knowledge check. What is a schema? Schema is the outline of the data. It tells us a lot of information about the data table. It tells us about the columns, the rows, the type of data that's in there. BigQuery is also really nice, and it also tells us a little bit about the actual table size, how big it is, how many rows it has. Can you filter to find columns within BigQuery? The answer is yes. In that search field, I could just type vendor, I could search date, and it would pull all the columns that look like that. So let's go over all the terms that we have covered in these first 3 modules. We have a data table. That's where our data lives, made of columns and rows. Columns describe the type of data. Row is the value. A data point is one specific row-column combination. In comparison, a data record is the entire row of a table, and it gives us context to what the data is. We have data types, and that lets BigQuery know how to handle and process the data. Within these types, we have string, which is text, int 64, which is a whole number, float is a decimal, numeric, another name for float, date has a time component, and null, which is missing data. So with that, you are done in Module 2. Congratulations. I am so proud of you. I will see you here next time, and we will get started on Module 3 and start getting into BigQuery. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I would be so appreciative if you could like the video and subscribe to help me create more content for you. Thank you.